All right, welcome back to our Worship Summit Live video series.
Next up, we're talking about worship presentation software, and one of the top ones out there is Easy Worship.
That's right, Fred and Dan from Easy Worship join us to talk about what you should be thinking about projecting up to screens and displays for your worship space.
Let's get into it.
I am the training specialist at Easy Worship. I've been with Easy Worship for almost 14 years now, and I've actually been using Easy Worship in my church for about 17 years now.
Hey, I'm Fred Callicoat. I've been with Easy Worship for about 3 years, and I'm one of the tech gurus here. Many of you may have heard my voice or recognized me from our technical support team.
Yeah, so we wanted to talk to you a little bit about church presentation software, specifically Easy Worship. Church presentation software, if you don't use it, or if you use something like PowerPoint, something like Easy Worship would be good because you can display your song lyrics, scriptures, presentations, all of your media files to your congregation through one software program. So we do want to talk to you about some different features that Easy Worship has, like MIDI, NDI. These are things that have been talked about today already, streaming through NDI, and also the Easy Worship remote app. But before we do that, I would like to kind of show you the layout of Easy Worship so that you are a little more familiar with it. So Easy Worship does have 3 views that you can choose from, but every view in Easy Worship has the resource area at the bottom of the screen. So in the resource area, this is where you can store your song library. All of your scriptures are there, your media, so that's your videos, images, your feeds, DVD clips, which we still have available, and audio files as well. And you can also store your presentations there, including PowerPoint files. So that is on the bottom of the screen of every view that is available in Easy Worship. In the top left is the schedule window, and this is where you can drag and drop any items that you use for a specific service and save that in a schedule so that you can reopen it and use it later on, or you can use it right away if you're last minute person and you want to create the schedule right before the service. In the middle section is a preview window. This is going to show whatever you have selected in the schedule or in the resource area. You can preview that in this preview window. And then right below in the preview output, it shows what you have selected in the preview window. On the right-hand side of the screen is the live output window. And this is what's actually live to the congregation. So at the top of the screen, the live window, you can select whatever slide you want to be displayed to the congregation. And then right below, in the live output window, this is going to duplicate what you see on the projector or TV screen, or whatever you're outputting to the congregation. So you get a good view of what that is going to look like to your congregation as well. So this is going to be your secondary output to a projector or a TV, or like I said, whatever you're outputting to, even if you're outputting NDI. But there is a third video output that is available called foldback.
Yeah, so foldback is the Easy Worship version of a stage display. So this is going to be a stripped down, deformatted version of your live output. So you're just going to basically see white text, black background. You're going to see the first line of the next slide, and you're also going to have a clock at the top right. And what you can do with this is you can actually provide a way for your pastor or speaker to follow along and catch back up if they lose their place with wherever you guys are at. So if you have their sermon notes typed up, they can actually go through there, and maybe if somebody has forgotten their cue and maybe hasn't advanced to the next slide yet, they still kind of have an idea of where they're going because they'll see that first line of the next slide. And to set up foldback, it's actually super simple. You just need to go into the edit option at the top left of Easy Worship and down to the options menu. When you open that up, on the left-hand side, you'll see foldback here, and you can click on that to access the foldback menu. And from here to turn fold back on, we just have to enable support. So clicking that box turns fold back on, and then you just select your fold back monitor here. Once you've selected the correct one, and it will typically be monitor 3, you'll just go ahead and click OK at the bottom. And now, if we wanted to demo what was being displayed in the foldback screen, we can actually click on Live Output over here, and it'll flip over to foldback. And let me make this a little bit bigger to give you guys a better idea of what it'll look like.
Now, you do have to have a separate video output on the computer to be able to use foldback, separate from your secondary output. That can be another port on your video card, or if you're using a laptop, you can set up a dual head to go from Matrox or a triple head to go to set that up.
Yeah. And most modern computers, if you're getting a desktop and it has a powerful graphics card, most of them are going to have 3 or 4 outputs. So you won't have to worry about, do I have enough? Do I need to add more? No, most of the time it will be there. And so after you get into foldback, you can actually also use something called foldback alerts. And these alerts can be sent exclusively to the foldback screen, so that if you need to send a message to your speaker or pastor without the rest of the congregation seeing it, you can. For example, if you needed to say, hey, you're kind of running long on time, can we go ahead and wrap it up? We need to go ahead and get into the offering or wherever we're going to next. You could send that exclusively to your pastor or speaker without having to embarrass them in front of the whole congregation. And Dan's going to kind of expand on foldback alerts and
I remember at one point, I think one of our customers did put on the foldback screen, your zipper is down, to the pastor to let them know that was occurring. But so that you can use that. It shows to whoever's on stage, but not to the front of house or to your congregation. But we do have a front of house message alert as well, and also a nursery alert. So if you want to use the nursery alert, you can. You would give the parents a number for the child. If the parent is needed in the nursery, then you can put the number up on the screen. The parent can see that and go back and check on their child in the nursery. The message alert is basically the same. You can type in a simple message alert that you might use one time. Maybe somebody left their lights on their car and put in the license plate number or something like that. But you can also type in templates that you use frequently for maybe it's time for the offering, or it's time for prayer or something like that. And you can also use templates to create a countdown timer for your service start time as well. So it's very, very usable. I use the countdown clock at my church every Sunday morning to count down to the start time of our service.
One of the ways I actually like to use countdown clocks is for my pastor to give him a time limit, because he's known to run a little bit long when he's speaking.
Right.
And so we'll give him like 10 minutes and we'll say, hey, there's your timer. When that hits 0, it's time to start.
Yeah, and you can set that up on the foldback clock. But in addition, that just reminded me that on the foldback, you can also set up a service interval time. And that will automatically count down to the service start time on your foldback monitor. And then once your service starts, it will start counting down to the stop time of your service. So that would be a separate clock on your foldback screen. Probably the top left corner is the default setting for that. So all of the settings for your alerts can be set up in the options menu. And again, that's under your edit menu and then options. And you have your live alerts and then foldback alerts and clocks. And that's where you can set up. You may not be able to see this here, maybe kind of small, but there's a clock option, service interval option, and then message alert option. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the live action buttons up here in the top right corner. So you'll see up here, I guess Fred was clicking on alerts while I was talking about that. Just to the left, the farthest left button is Go Live. And the Go Live button is going to send whatever you have selected in the schedule or the resource area to the live output and display it on your screen. Then there's the alerts button. That's where you can select a message alert or a nursery alert or your foldback message alert. The logo button next to that is where you can add your church logo. If you have a church logo that you want to display on the screen, you can add that as a logo. To do that, it's very simple. You're going to go to the Media tab in your resource area. That's at the bottom of the screen. And if it's an image and you don't have it added into Easy Worship yet, you can right-click anywhere in the image library and import new image file. That's going to bring up a browse window for Windows so that you can import your church logo into your images. Now, once it's in your image library, all you need to do is right-click on it and set as logo background. Then, whenever you click the logo button, it displays the church logo on the screen. Now, you can click logo again to turn that off. And then the next button to the right of that is the black button. When you click black, sometimes I call it the oh no button, or sometimes maybe different words as well. When I'm really stressed out. But the black button is just going to black out the screen. So if you make a mistake or you go live to the wrong song or the wrong slide, you start playing a video and you're not supposed to yet, you can click black and it'll black out the screen, stop whatever's playing. You can then find what you're supposed to actually be live to and go live to that, and then unblack the screen again to the correct slide. Then next to that is the clear button. The clear is going to clear off all the foreground elements off the slide and just leave the background running. So any kind of text element or video element, if you have multiple elements on the slide, it will clear those off, only leave the background, and then click clear again to bring those back on the screen. So that would be a good use for maybe if you have an instrumental portion of the song, you can clear off the text during that instrumental time. And then the last button here on the right is the live button. That is the toggle switch to turn your live output on or off. So when you click the live button and it's flashing, that means your live output is on and it's displayed to the congregation. If you click the live button and turn it off and the live button is not flashing anymore, then your congregation is not seeing what you're sending from Easy Worship. You're not sending anything from Easy Worship at that point. It is just, they'll just see whatever's on your desktop background.
Yeah, and kind of one of the next things that we want to talk about is some of the integrations that Easy Worship has. And so the first thing is PowerPoint and Song Select. Easy Worship does integrate with both of those. They're very simple to add to Easy Worship and use, but you do have to have PowerPoint installed on the computer if you intend to use a PowerPoint file, and you have to have a subscription to Song Select if you intend to use anything from Song Select. Now, to add a PowerPoint, you can do that a couple of different ways. If you just want to add it directly to your schedule for like a one-time use, for example, if a guest speaker comes in and they bring in their talk on PowerPoint slides, you can go into the schedule, and at the top right, this little gear icon or settings icon, you can click on that and select Add Item to bring up this menu where you can browse for a PowerPoint file. And that will bring up a little Windows File Explorer window where you can navigate through the computer, access it, and open it up to bring it in. Now, if you want to save a PowerPoint for long-term usage, you're going to want to add that to your Presentations tab. Presentations is just like Media. It's where you can store either PowerPoint presentations or Easy Worship presentations. And Easy Worship presentations is just an alternative to PowerPoint that can be built directly inside the program without any additional software, no additional cost. It's already there and it works right off the bat as soon as you install it. And so to import a PowerPoint into presentations, you actually want to go down to your presentations library, which is this area here where the presentations are stored, and right click. This will give you an option to import a PowerPoint file. And that'll work the same way as the schedule. It'll open up a Windows Explorer window. You'll navigate to the file, open it up, and it will add it here for long-term usage. And so you can just use it as many times as you need. And the other thing I was going to talk about is Song Select. So as long as you have an active subscription to Song Select, you can add a song by going to the new option here at the top left of Easy Worship and choosing this new song from Song Select. Now, whenever you click on that, it's going to load up a little browser window with Song Select here. You can sign in, navigate to the lyrics that you'd like to add, and import them directly up here at the top. You can either import them to your songs list or schedule the lyrics. If you schedule the lyrics, they will go to your schedule here. If you import them, they will go directly to this songs list. And we also kind of want to talk about alpha channel videos.
Yeah, one of the neat features about Easy Worship 7 is that it supports alpha channel videos. And if you don't know what alpha channel videos are, they're basically transparent videos that allow you to layer that in front of another image or video and still see what's behind that. So Easy Worship, we recommend using WebM format. It does support MOV, but those are uncompressed ProRes files. They use a lot of system memory and CPU. So WebM files are recommended for that. But I'm going to show you a welcome slide that we have here. Fred, if you can right click and edit that welcome slide, you might be able to see it a little better here. All right, so this is the schedule editor for this slide. We do have a motion background that we've pulled from our media store, the Easy Worship media store, as a background here. And then in front of that is this welcome alpha channel video. So it's transparent. You can see, maybe you can see it here, that he's moving it around, but the welcome, we're glad you're here, is all that you can see from that video. The rest of it is transparent. So if you double click on that and play it, you can see the motion in the back is still visible, but all you see from the alpha channel video is the welcome, we're glad you're here text. So it's very useful for creating slides like this, welcome slide. If you have an offering slide or a goodbye slide, thank you for coming. You can also use it for lower thirds. If you're doing a live feed and you want some kind of a motion behind your sermon notes or your scripture, anything like that, you can add a lower third alpha channel video for that as well. So one of the great features that we're going to talk about is our remote app as well. So Fred, why don't you go ahead and take that over?
Yeah, absolutely. So the remote app is probably the best reviewed new feature for Easy Worship 7. It's the one all the customers, whenever they call me and they're like, hey, I love Easy Worship 7, I ask them, well, what do you love best? The remote app. Everybody loves the remote app. It works on Android, it works on iOS. So that means Android phone, Android tablet, iPhone, iPads, and even Apple Watches. We released an Apple Watch app later on. And it's been pretty great. I think people really, really enjoy that. And I know several people have switched exclusively for that one feature. And so we're going to set up the remote app real quick. And Dan is going to go into the settings menu at the top left
on this iPad.
On the iPad.
All right.
Okay. And then in this remote dropdown, after he's gone into the settings menu, he actually needs to choose Easy Worship Remote Control, and he's already done that here. Your computer may not be called this. It'll probably have a different name, but the name will be right down here at the bottom left of that remote drop-down menu.
Yeah, that name can actually be changed in the options menu if you wanted to do that as well.
Yeah. And so as soon as Dan selected that on the iPad popped up here and said not paired, and I just need to click pair to confirm that. So when I click pair, it's by default going to be in view only mode. So Dan cannot currently control anything. But when I click on that little padlock icon, it changes to a remote control, and Dan can now access everything I already have in the schedule, as well as control it.
Maybe you can see that. So I'm going to switch to a different song here. Go live to it. So yeah, you can see it's changing there from what I'm doing on the remote. Now the mobile device and the computer need to be on the same network for that to work. So
yeah, you don't have to have internet access. You just have to have a Wi-Fi network set up to connect the devices. And yeah, as long as they're on the same network, it'll work. You are still limited to Wi-Fi ranges, which is about, 45 feet. But either way, this way you could actually sit with your family or with friends, or if your pastor wants to control his own sermon, that can all be done from their mobile devices. And at that point, you don't have to have an operator at the booth. You may still want one just in case somebody made a mistake with the service, but you don't actually have to have anybody sitting back there. And so one of the other things you may have noticed under this remote dropdown is we have something called MIDI down here. And Dan's going to kind of explain what MIDI is and how to set it up with Easy Worship.
yeah, so there's been a lot of talk today in other sessions about MIDI. I know Will talked about it in his session with Ableton a little bit, but Easy Worship does support MIDI in to be able to control your schedule using those MIDI cues from an external software like Ableton Live, or external device like a keypad or a drum machine, any kind of external device that sends MIDI out. So Ableton Live is a very popular software that you can use. Also, Prime from Loop Community and Playback from Multitracks. All those recently released a MIDI out. Both of those software programs did release a MIDI out. And so now you can use those tracks and the MIDI cues to control the slides in Easy Worship. So I'm going to just walk through a little bit of the setup here. Fred clicked on remote. If you hover over the MIDI section, and then in the bottom left corner of that, you'll click the plus button to create a new MIDI control. Now there are a couple of utilities you need to install. This is a PC, so you do need a couple of utilities to install to connect to the iPad or iPhone or a MacBook Pro or whatever you're using there. So you do need Bonjour. That is also needed for the remote control.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah.
But it does prompt you to install that when you set up a remote, when you set up the remote app, if you don't have that installed already. But if you can also find it on, you can Google Bonjour. You can search Bonjour on our support page. That's support.easyworship.com. The other utility is RTP MIDI, and Easy Worship supports the network MIDI through that RTP MIDI session. So the bottom left corner of the MIDI control window, there's a link that says more information that you can download and install RTP MIDI, and it also has instructions for setting that up. Now, once you have those utilities installed, you can give your control name at the top. The input MIDI device is going to be the device that is receiving the MIDI cues. And so that's going to be our computer that has Easy Worship on it. So that's the computer name there is PC. So that computer name is PC. So we're going to choose that. The MIDI channel is defaults to any. So you can leave it on any channel, but if you do use multiple MIDI channels in your service, you can choose a specific channel to send that to or to receive. Then Input Cues tab takes you to the actual cues. You can leave those pretty much the default is going to be what you want to use, especially if you're using Prime or Playback. These are pretty much set up the way that you can use those through those apps. Now, Ableton, there is a button at the bottom here that says Ableton Live Set Export. So you can export those files from Easy Worship, import those into Ableton, and then drag and drop them just wherever you want in your songs in Ableton Live. So it's very simple to do. There are also other editing options here to train your MIDI cues if you wanted to do that. All right, so then you would just click OK. And then once you start your track or whatever in Ableton, Playback, or Prime, or whatever device you're using, once it hits that MIDI cue, it's going to change the slide or set the logo or black or whatever cue you have set up for that.
Now, we need to turn it on to ready first, though, right? And here we just need to
Correct.
change this.
Yeah, once you save your MIDI control, it's basically like the remote app. It's going to be locked, so you won't be able to access it when it's locked. So you do have to unlock it to be able to receive to make it ready to receive those MIDI cues.
Kind of the last big new feature that we wanted to talk about with Easy Worship 7 was NDI. And occasionally I get customers who are kind of confused. Aren't NDI and MIDI the same thing, or are they similar? They're really not very similar. They were designed for two very different purposes, but NDI is a way to essentially stream a broadcast over a network. And so this is most commonly used with camera feeds, either in or out of Easy Worship, and Easy Worship can do both an NDI input and an NDI output. The first thing I'm going to show you guys is how to set up an NDI input as if I had a camera feed coming in. And to do that, we're actually going to go down here to the bottom left under Media, and we're going to go to the Feeds folder on the left-hand side here.
Yeah, you may not be able to see that, but under Media, there's videos, images, feeds, DVD, and audio. And so you'll just choose the feeds section there.
Yeah, and once you're in Feeds, in the Feeds library over here, I'm going to right-click, and the first option is to add a new feed. I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to give it a title. In this case, I'm just going to call it NDI, and then I'm going to select my input device. Now, your input device, if you're sending, if you're receiving NDI, should actually say NDI at the end of the name. You may have something else listed there if you're using like a capture card or a webcam or something like that. But if you're trying to get NDI, you definitely want to make sure to use the one that says NDI. Once you've selected that, Easy Worship will do its best to fill in these device options here. So normally you won't ever have to mess with that. It'll fill in the best possible settings for you, and you can just click OK to save this new feed. Once you've saved the feed, you can either add it as a background, go live directly to it, or you could use it as an overlay even. You could do a picture-in-picture with a feed next to a background, next to a scripture, however you'd like to do that. But the next thing I want to show you guys is the NDI output. If you go into the edit option at the top left and down to options, here in the options menu, all you have to do to set up your NDI output is change this output monitor to this NDI stream. Normally, if you're projecting to a projector or a television, you'll actually have this set on like monitor 1, monitor 2, or monitor 3. But if you're wanting to send out NDI, make sure that you choose NDI stream. Easy Worship will again try to choose the best output format for you. In this case, it's chosen 1280 by 720 for me. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. If you want, you can change that. But like I said, most of the time, it's going to be the best possible option. And it's really best to try that first before you start trying to manually adjust settings on your own. Now, once you've got your NDI output, you can actually accept that, accept that through OBS or vMix or another mixing software. So vMix already natively supports NDI, and you just have to add a new NDI input there. For OBS, you actually need to go out and get a patch from a third-party programmer. So it is free and it's super easy to install. And if you guys stick with us after this session, we can kind of give you a better rundown of a little bit more in depth on some of this stuff. And I can provide you guys with links to any of the stuff that Dan and I have spoken about so far.
Yeah. Yeah. And on the NDI-in, some of the best cameras that we've tested are the PTZOptics NDI cameras, which is what we're using now for this vMix call. So great cameras, very simple to set up.
Yeah.
It finds them right away and great quality. So yeah, thanks to PTZOptics for making such great cameras.
Yeah, the PTZ stuff is really plug and play. I've messed with a few others where you do actually have to go in and set up some sort of specialized software, and it can be pretty complicated, especially for a non-techie person. But the PTZ, you hook it up, turn it on, presto, good to go.
Yeah.
And so kind of the last thing I wanted to cover with NDI was you can actually live stream your service from Easy Worship to services like Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitch, sermon.net, and many others. With OBS, which is what I personally use, it's super simple to set up. In Facebook, you just have to get your stream key and add that to your stream settings in OBS. And then as long as you have the OBS set up to receive the input from Easy Worship, when you hit start streaming, it starts streaming. Now, most of the time you are going to have probably a 30-second delay from Easy Worship to OBS to Facebook, 30 seconds total. And that's very normal. You can actually set that longer if you want. Personally, I think I have mine set at 60 seconds, just to give me time. If I do make a mistake or put the wrong thing up, I can quickly correct that. And then that little bit of that delay gives me the time to fix things.
Yeah. So those are all the features that we wanted to talk to you about today. Again, if you want to stick with us afterwards for the breakout, we can explain in more detail if there are other questions. Now, Easy Worship is a very affordable software. We have different pricing for different size churches. So the pricing starts at as little as $15 a month when billed annually. So very inexpensive, even for the smallest of churches. So, and if you, all of the church presentation softwares that I know of have demos as well. So we would encourage you to try out a software before you purchase it. We have a demo on our website, and you can use the demo as long as you want. It has a watermark on the output, but you can use all the features that are in the demo.
And all the features do work in the demo. So you're not limited whenever you try out the demo. You're not limited to only just the basics. You can try out everything and make sure it's going to work for your church before you ever commit to that price tag. And like Dan said, you can just download the demo. It's available on pretty much every page on our website. It's just right here at the top right. If you want to demo it, you click that and it'll bring you to this page here. Type in your email address and click download. If you're on a desktop computer, it's just going to start downloading the software. You can install it, start using it right away. Now, if you're on a mobile device, though, it will send you an email where when you do get to your desktop or laptop, you can just download it at that point, set it up, and start going.
Yeah, and that is easyworship.com. So, all right, Fred, did you have anything else?
No, I think we're good, so we can do some questions or hop over to the Q&A.
Hey gentlemen, Tess hopping on here.
Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
We do have quite a few questions for you guys that have been filing in throughout your presentation.
Okay.
So we do have, Paul, would you rather me go to the Zoom call right now, or would you rather me take the remainder of this time to do questions All right, let's do a few questions here before we switch off to the Zoom call, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Hold on. Let me file back here. I've got pages and pages. For people that keep asking, yes, this content is being recorded and will be available on demand. There's so much conversation happening. I need to just file through this for just a moment. Okay. People are asking for a site for a course. Were you referring to an Easy Worship course, gentlemen?
Well, there is a training webinar that we do about once a week. I actually do that one. So yeah, if you sign up for a subscription, you get a free 1 hour webinar, and you could sign up for as many times as you want, actually, as many times as you want to hear my voice. But that's if that's what we're talking about.
Well, you can also watch past webinars. So if anybody can't make it to one of Dan's live sessions, you can actually go to the same site, watch one of the previous sessions, and the first 45 minutes or so is the same every time, right? More or less.
Yeah. So that's limited to subscribers. So once you subscribe, purchase a subscription, you get a link to the website to sign up for the training webinar.
Okay. A question from Mike Stevens. Where did it go, Polly? You took my overlay down. Okay. Is the program is Windows only? Could you get it and have it on an iPad app, or do you have an iPad app?
Yeah, we get that question a lot. Yeah, we get that question a lot. Easy Worship currently is Windows only. Our remote app is iOS and Android compatible. So yeah, it does. We don't have the software available for Mac or iOS. Just our remote app works on both the platforms, iOS and Android.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Miguel. We do have an in-studio question coming for you.
Okay.
Quick question, guys. Are you guys ever going to implement a master-slave feature, just like Pro Presenter had, where one main computer will be able to control another computer in the back room? Is that ever going to be a possibility in Easy Worship?
I don't know that I've heard our developers talking about that, but it very well could be on their radar. That's probably something I would have to ask the developers, but I just don't have an answer for you on that one.
All right, thank you.
This question from David: will the app work over 2.4? Okay, I don't want to mess this up. Gigahertz, or does it need 5.0? Did I say it right?
Yeah, it will. It will work better on the 5. We do recommend the app being on a dedicated router. So if you try to set up your Easy Worship and your mobile device with the remote app on your local or on your Wi-Fi network that your whole congregation has access to, you're going to have some connection problems. Okay. So we do recommend having your own dedicated router that only your computer and your mobile device connect to, or very limited connections to it, so that it gets the best connection.
And to kind of expand on that, like I hope I mentioned originally, you don't have to have internet access to use the remote app. You just have to have the router network set up.
But we have tested it on 2.4 gigahertz.
It does work, and kind of the benefit with using 2.4 is that you get about triple the distance before you start to lose connection. We're talking, for most modern routers, about 150 feet worth of distance between the router and the device versus 50 for the 5 gigahertz band. So if you need a little bit more distance you may want to go with that 2.4, but just keep in mind, you might get some latency or some lag that wasn't exactly desirable.
Yeah.
Right. One last question before I invite you guys to join the Zoom call. From Sabbath, can Easy Worship 7 allow you to output a full screen format to your church main screen and a lower third format for recording and or live, I'm going to finish this in a moment, live stream software?
Okay.
Do you need me
Yeah,
to
currently
reread?
Easy. I think I got it. Yeah, currently Easy Worship just has one output. So if you are sending to a live stream via NDI, then you're not going to be able to send out to your front of house. So if you wanted to do both, you would have to have two computers running Easy Worship, one doing each one going to the front of house TV or projectors, the other going NDI to your live stream.
Wow, that was an insightful presentation.
That was great. It's great to learn about some different ways to display lyrics and things like that when it comes to worship production.
So next we have Jim Bask from Video Guys, who's going to dig into working with volunteers and preparing your technology so that it's user-friendly.
That's right. These guys are tech experts. So, get into it.